Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to make a sandbox. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a square. Okay, what I did is I took some 2-inch pieces of basswood and I took some masking tape, and you want to put them together. Squeezing them tight, place your masking tape on there. Just like that. Okay, once you have that done, then you have a fold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place some glue right in that fold. Be sure not to do too much because it's just going to ooze out and make a mess. So if you get too much on there, wipe it off with your finger. As you can see, it's still too much, so I'm going to wipe that off. Alright, so that's what you want for the bottom. Okay, now on the template, you're going to have 2 short ones and 2 long ones. As you can see, there's 2 different sizes here. You want to start with the short ones. And since I have some glue left over on my fingers, I'm just going to go ahead and place it on that edge. And then I'm going to go down along this edge. Now, obviously you can put it on the bottom rather than on here. Actually, I don't even know why I put that there. Don't put it on this edge. It needs to go over here. Okay, so you have it on the bottom, and then you have it on this edge here with the short ones. And then you want to go ahead and make sure that's even with that and wiping away any excess glue that squishes out. However, it is not necessary that you have to actually wash out that glue. Because what happens is when you fill it with sand, it's not going to matter because the sand's going to cover it. Especially if you do it stationary the way that I'm going to do it. Actually, put the tape on. It'll be a little bit easier for you, and then place that on there. Alright, there you go. Now, because this one's being a little bit more difficult than the other one, I'm just going to do all 4 sides with the tape, and then that just helps hold it in place until it dries. Masking tape is like your closest friend when working with miniatures because it gives you that extra hand that you don't have. So if you don't have masking tape and you are working with miniatures, you probably want to get yourself some. And if you don't have access to masking tape, painter tape will do the same thing. Alright, so now I want to go to the other side, make sure I'm grabbing the short one, and then I want to go ahead and put some glue right along this edge and along here. And also on the edges. Right, I'm going to place that right in here, just like that. Now for this piece, we're going to go straight along this edge, and then I'm also going to go up here a little bit just to give it a little bit more glue right on the front surface. And then I'm going to make that even with the sides. And make sure you have this square, because if it's not square, then your whole thing's going to be wonky. Alright, so I'm pressing that down. Now I'm going to go back and press that down. And then go there. Now I'm going to put a piece of masking tape on the corners of this one. Okay, so you have it there, 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 and that just makes sure that it's flat. Okay, now you want to do the same thing with this one, and I'm just using a paint stick for this piece of wood here. So if you're wondering what kind of wood this is that I'm using, This is a paint stick. You can use basswood. Basswood is a little bit more expensive than a paint stick, but it will give you the same effect. The paint stick is about 1 inch by about 1/8. Then you just want to put that just like that. And again, make sure it's all squared up, removing any excess glue that you have on your sandbox, and let it dry. And then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so now you have 2 options. Option A, you can put the thin board on here like this and like this to give 2 long benches, okay? You can put them on hinges if you like, to where they open up, or you can just glue them flat. That's the first option, okay? The second option is you can glue these pieces here onto the corners, and then you have a sandbox with 4 corner seats. And then that is it for the sandbox, okay? Now, I'm going to show you how to make the hard sand so that you can have it to where it doesn't fall out all over the place. But first we have to go ahead and paint this. I want to paint it red, so stay tuned for the next part. And if you are doing these, you only want to put glue on the top here where you're going to put it. And you don't need a lot of the glue either, because it'll hold it. But that is it for the sandbox for this, all right? I'll be right back with painting it, and I'm sure you know how to paint it, so I won't show you how to paint it, but I will show you how to do the hard sand. So we'll be back. Okay, so now everything's painted. I didn't do the bottom because you're not going to see it, but if you're going to add sand, leave these off if you want your sand to be solid, because it'll be easier to work with. All right. The very first thing that I'm doing is I'm going to use some Mod Podge matte. I don't want shiny because sand is not glossy. Okay, and when I painted this, I painted it with the Premier paint. And it's acrylic. Now, I'm going to take this Mod Podge and I'm going to pour some directly in the sandbox. I'm not letting it go all the way to the corners because I do want to have it in the middle. But after I've done that, then I've got my sand in a container. And put it on horizontal so you can see a little better. And I am going to sprinkle the sand directly in the center where I put that glue. As you can see, the sand wants to push that glue to the edge. But now what we're going to do is we're going to start mixing that together. And it's going to get kind of funky looking at first. See how it gets clumpy? That's okay. Just keep mixing it until you get as much of that sand covered as you possibly can. Okay, and at one point, when you get it like that, you can add a little bit more Mod Podge. And if you don't have Mod Podge, you can use Elmer's glue, like school glue, and it'll make this stuff stick the same. Or Elmer's wood glue, either way, it'll all make it stick. Okay, now I've put more sand on top. And now I'm just mixing it together again. Just get that nice, good, consistent, sandy mess. And keep doing that. Okay, so when it starts to look soupy like this, you need more sand because you don't want it to dry looking like gritty glue. You want it to dry looking like sand. So kind of mix in the rest of your sand around the edges that is kind of clumpy to get that mixed in. Now some sandboxes does kind of have that wet look to it, so if you want part of your sand to be clumpy like that, you can keep it like that, but I don't want mine to be like that, so I'm not doing that. Alright, and while I'm stirring this, I'm also pushing it down to mush it into the rest of it. And if you want to make sand castles or anything like that, you can also do that with the same exact process. Just you would have to get yourself a mold, like maybe a small lid or something like that. Now, if you feel like you've gotten your sand coated all the way over, where you feel like you've really got it covered, then at this point you want to get a paintbrush. I'm just going to use a small acrylic paintbrush, and I'm going to mat all mine down with the paintbrush. Now, I don't want my sand to be flat like I did when I made the aquarium, because this is a sandbox. So you kind of want it bumpy. But if you are very particular and you do want it to be flat, all you have to do is just kind of go like this with the brush, and then it'll flatten it out. But I don't want mine that way. I want it to kind of look a little bit like it's been played in. So I'm leaving some peaks in there. But again, like I said, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's completely a preference. It's all in what you want. And at this point, if you want to put a shovel in there, or if you want to put a sandbox or a sand toy in there or whatever, you can. Some of the things you could use for the toys for the sandbox would be like buttons. They've got great little buttons for that you could do. And once you have that set to where you want it, you want to put these on here. Now, because it is painted, I'm going to actually use some of my crazy glue to glue these pieces on here, because I think that the paint is not going to stick very good to the wood glue. But that's what it'll look like. Okay, now these are just some lids that I had laying around the house. You could glue them in there once it's dry. Just kind of form the spot that you want it to go, like that. And then when it's dry, put some crazy glue in that spot and it'll hold. Or you can just mold it there and leave it. And another thing that you can do is you could take some of these little tools from, or I shouldn't say tools, but like lids, and you could build yourself some pretend sand castles. Just like that, and then pull away the sand that's all around it. And that's all you have to do. Okay, so I used the lid for the sandbox here. This little shovel, which is very small, was a button. I just cut the button off at the back of it. And then that's also a button. So the lids, I just pressed into there, and they automatically had the swirly part where it screws onto the bottle, so it kind of resembles a little bit of a sandcastle. You can make your own sandcastle using different kinds of lids or whatever, and some of my sand I smoothed out, some I left kind of clumpy like it was being played in. But that is it, and then when it dries, all of the sand will stay in place. If it doesn't stay in place, you can do a very light coat of the Mod Podge over top of it again, and then just lightly sprinkle like a little bit of the sand to cover it up. And then that should be it. Now, that's for that one. I'm going to go ahead and do this one, and then this is going to be the other sandbox. It's going to have the different seats on it. Okay, so here is the other sandbox. I finished that. And again, I made a couple little pretend sandcastles in there that should dry hard, and it's got the bench effect. Now you can paint your lids to make them different colors for the buckets or whatever if you want, but here's the red one. And then there's the wooden one. And if you want to mix the acrylic paint with water, you would do like 2 parts acrylic paint and 1 part water, or you could do half and half if you want less of an effect. But when you mix it with the water, you'll see a lot of wood grain. It'll go on like a stain. Now this is straight. I didn't use any water with this. So if you want the full effect, you just paint it on natural. But if you want to have it have like more of a stain effect, then you would want to mix it with some water. Okay, and the darker you want it, the less water you would add, because it's going to be more solid at that point. It becomes more translucent the more water that you add. Okay guys, so I wanted to show you the finished sandboxes with the hardened sand. Okay, it's completely hard, and it doesn't fall out. Okay, and here is the little caps that we put in there, and tried to make it look like sand castles, and over here the same way. So if you just put it in there and then you screw it, then you get the like the little twirly effect. So that's one kind, and that's the other kind, just so you kind of get an idea. And then again, that was just a button that I cut the back off of. That was a button, and I just buried it in there and cut the back off of it. And this is just a toothpaste lid. So that's it for the toy box or sandboxes. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a question, suggestion, or comment below. And if you make this, please share it with us on our Facebook page or through our website, dollhousetutorials.com. And we would really appreciate it if you would share our YouTube channel as well as our website so others can enjoy this great hobby too. And we will see you in the next tutorial. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful day.